I wanted to go through the Discover tab. So these are very powerful apps within the Blockcircle platform that allow you to be able to see what opportunities there are across the entire universe of assets. So first we'll start with the momentum trading engine. And the momentum trading engine itself is our own proprietary trading strategy that is based upon momentum. Going up is a good opportunity to go long, and when it's going down is a good opportunity to go short. So it's meant and designed to be performing irrespective of market direction across multiple asset classes. So right now, for what we have here is we have three different trading strategies, one for cryptocurrency for Bitcoin Cash, and then two for stocks. So CRM is Salesforce, and then CVX is Chevron. You can see that starting from January of 2025, strategy one here got a 92% win rate on the 4-hour time frame with a return of 293% with a drawdown of minus 14%. So a drawdown, and I'll walk you through that and I'll explain it. It's usually described as an unrealized loss, but it can also be when your equity goes down from peak to trough of 14%. Now, if you reduce the risk and reduce volatility and invest or trade an asset that is more manageable and more balanced, then of course you're going to have a lower drawdown and then correspondingly a lower potential return. And that applies both with Salesforce and Chevron. So you can see that strategy two on the 1 day, so trades a little less frequently, had a return of 91%, which is good, which is rock solid, with a 60% return. And then the max drawdown is a little less than 5%. So that's very manageable. I think that is a very normal amount of risk to tolerate. And I think most people would say that a Sharpe ratio above 2 with a profit factor of above 10 and a drawdown of less than 5% with a win rate above 90 is a very attractive strategy, as long as it's not overfitted, which means that you didn't go and maniacally try to over-engineer and tinker every single parameter and configuration in the strategy. So, and the only way to truly determine whether or not that's the case is to walk forward, is to forward test it live, right? And then the third strategy you could see, it's 37 trades, Sharpe is above 2, drawdown is about 4%, and then the return is 77. But the win rate it hadn't lost when we were launching this. And if you're interested in any of them, you just click it and it tells you what tier it's on. And then it also allows you to be able to see exactly how it performs starting with a balance of 10K. So it tells you exactly where it went. So the highest point was about 4x higher at around 40,000. And then it dipped down after I had a few consecutive losses. And then it's right back up to where it was at. And then the same thing, it tells you all of the quantitative financial metrics you would want to know in being able to make an educated decision on whether or not this is a strategy you would want. So after you determine this strategy, you can then look at the strategy versus a buy and hold benchmark. So if you had bought and held Bitcoin Cash, you can then compare it to how it would have performed at that particular time, right? And you can see, so you can see that it's clearly your goal is to outperform buy and hold, but it's also to outperform a benchmark of you buying and holding Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, or gold, or S&P 500, or silver, or palladium, etc. Depends on what type of benchmark you want and what your investment horizon is. But that's literally the momentum trading engine. And then from here, if you want to trade it and you're ready to go and go to the next level, all you would do at this point is you go in and you click trade. So I'll give you an example. So right from the main homepage, from the main momentum trading homepage, you see what you want and you click trade. And then that allows you to go and automatically schedule it. So it will automatically go long or short depending on what the trading strategy stipulates, essentially. And then you could choose your amount of leverage. You can choose exactly what you want to scale in, scale out. You can distribute over time into multiple purchase tranches. You can have scheduled entries. You can execute them across multiple exchange accounts or brokerage accounts or on-chain, off-chain, etc. And again, Blockcircle is completely non-custodial. So it functions just like TradingView. It never has any access to any funds whatsoever. All you would do is just connect your exchanges. So Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, etc. And there's 150 plus. And it'll automatically will tell you which ones are compatible with this particular asset class. And if you want to go and use a different trading strategy, you just click trade the same way. And or if you don't want to go to that phase 2 and you just want to go to phase 1, which is just you receiving the alerts, and then you can decide to go long or short, you just subscribe to alerts. You could say exactly when a signal was added, when a position was open, stop loss is set, trailing stop loss is set. So I like to use trailing stop losses to exit. I don't personally like to rely on any trading strategy to automatically exit for me when there's a profit target hit. I would personally like to intervene with a trailing stop loss where if the position is above 3% profit, trail it with 1% distance and then move the stop loss up to be able to lock in those gains and protect your profit. So I like to do that. That's my personality. I can't judge you if you don't want to mirror that same type of trading style. That works well for me, and it adheres to my own risk tolerances. So this is really the best way of looking at the momentum trading engine. And then the next one is the asset outperformer engine. So the asset outperformer engine, to me, is probably one of the most important, I would say, applications on the entire platform, because it's looking at over 7,000 assets across all asset classes, and it's trying to compare their performance against these benchmarks. So these benchmarks are what I have determined through years of research and analysis as being very good, a good barometer on whether or not an asset is sustainably and durably outperforming them, right? And if an asset is outperforming them, then it's typically worth a look, especially if you look at it on the 1 day, 7 day, 30 day, and then 9 day is also just used to be able to just help you gauge the performance of these assets. But it includes Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, gold, and S&P 500. These are some of the five highest performing assets over the course of the last 10 years. So what you do is it's showing you that Trader 2X as a fund, UBS, Verbio, Nokia, Nosana, Cisco, right? Advisors. So these are some just examples of different assets that are actually outperforming the entire benchmark across 3 asset classes. So 5 assets, 3 time periods, 5 times 315, of course. So that's where it's telling you that Trader is, and it's telling you what it is. So usually it's around, this fund maintains 80% exposure to financial instruments that provide 2 times leveraged exposure to the daily performance of AAOI, right? And it's a fund. It's here. It's denominated in US dollars, and it's telling you it's at $61, but it's outperforming all 15. So, and it's a phase B. So we're using our own machine learning algorithms to go and to assign a conviction score. So usually higher the better, of course. And then we're using different phases. So usually, and if you just hover over here, it explains it to you. So it says phase A is early recovery. Phase B is a confirmed uptrend. Phase C you might be entering a little late, where it's sustainably outperforming, but you might be buying into the top. So you have to be very careful. I like to go in at the tail end of phase A and going into phase B. And then if you want to understand it more, you just click the tour. So this gives you like a click-through tour. And then the other thing too is you can just click how it works and go to the methodology tab and walks you through every single thing. And the same applies to all the modules across the entire platform. So you have the click-through tutorial, and then you have the how it works overview. And if you just want to focus on stocks, you just click stocks. It filters to that particular asset class, and then you can focus on only phase B if that's what you want. And then you can focus on specific countries, let's say the United States or United Kingdom or France or Canada, etc. And then you can see exactly how these companies, publicly traded assets, are performing against the benchmark, right? So you can see that ON, which is massive, a semiconductor company in the US, right? That's powering solutions in Hong Kong, Singapore, UK, US, etc. How it's performing across its entire 22,000 employee base. So this is extremely powerful because this tells you that it gives you a performance of how it's performing also. And then also, if you want to buy this on chain, for example, you can buy this on chain because there is a tokenized mirrored asset of it, and it doesn't have millions in terms of liquidity, but it has a few 100,000. So it could be something worth looking at. So that's just an example. And then another thing is you can click any particular company. So if you click the company itself, it'll take you directly to a dedicated company profile page where it gives you a description of it. But more importantly, it also gives you the company financials, and it gives you the insider view that we were going through. And it tells you exactly who's been buying and selling. It gives you the political alpha view. So it tells you exactly who's been buying and selling from a politician standpoint. So, for example, Rohit Khanna has been buying. He's from the Democratic Party. And the last time he bought was on April 13th, right? And he's been actually outperforming the benchmark by 33%, which is significant. So, and then you can look at filings, you can look at our valuation score from our company valuation engine. So that's where it gets very interesting, is when you have the crossover between all of the different tools. So we'll go through the next ones later. So we went through the momentum trading engine, we went through the asset outperformer engine, we went through all of the trade platform, the trade apps themselves. So let me go through the company valuation engine because I was just mentioning it. So the company valuation engine is using 6 different methods to help you see whether or not a company is overvalued or undervalued, right? So overpriced or underpriced. And typically, if it's overpriced across the board, across all 6 valuation methods, you need to be careful. It's just something you need to ponder upon and really reflect upon and think about it. So, for example, if I look at Alphabet, it's going to give you an overview. It's going to give you the financial performance. It'll give you the valuation, of course, as measured by the total enterprise value, by the number of available shares in circulation multiplied by the last traded price. And that's the formula everyone knows. However, if you want to look at the actual methods that are being used, you can look at discounted cash flow, intrinsic value. You can look at the Graham number, the Peter Lynch fair valuation, the Greenblatt magic formulation. So there's quite a few, right? So right now there's 6 plus 1 or 7 in total. Not all 7 are populated all the time. It depends on whether or not there's sufficient data to be able to calculate it with some degree of confidence. But this is where it gets very interesting. So I want to be able to use some type of composite average of these 3. And it's ultimately telling me that it's slightly overvalued, right? It doesn't mean that it's going to lead to a market correction, but it leads to the conclusion that it is overvalued overall. So, and that's interesting. So that to me is interesting, right? So, and then you can look at their income statement, their balance sheet, their cash flows, but even more importantly, you can do a financial forensic audit to look for any potential concern with the SEC filings and see if there's also look at the AI disruption impact of this company and whether or not there's any risks with financial, operational, market, and AI and tech controls. So you can look at the risk signals, the positive signals, and then the further down you go, you can keep seeing any potential forensic accounting flags that you can look at, right? And this is where, it's a chartered accountant's dream to be able to see this all in one unified view. And for somebody who's always focused on process reengineering and AI automation, this disruption analysis is incredibly valuable because it's telling you whether or not this company has a high probability of being disrupted or impacted by AI automation, AI augmentation, et cetera, in the future. So if the AI disruption score is very high, then that means the liability shield or any type of protection that company has against AI disruption is low, and that's very dangerous. So, so this is hopefully very valuable for everyone, and hopefully it's as straightforward to be able to understand and process. And if there's a company that hasn't been analyzed, you can just click analyze and be able to see it. So this to me is really valuable, and it's something that's continuously like a work in progress. And then the next one is the market reversal engine. So the market reversal engine is one of my favorites because it literally just tells you whether or not the Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, and cryptocurrency altcoins are overbought or oversold on a short time frame, like 15 minutes. So it doesn't trigger that often. So the last time it's triggered was about like 9 hours ago, and it was saying that it was oversold when Bitcoin was hitting like 70,000, and when Solana was hitting 79,000, right? And what I have found to work really well for me is when I see, the four quadrant like oversold conditions. So I see Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, and altcoins all showing that they're oversold across the board, and I get at least two alerts like that. Then that's a potential good short-term scalp long, right? And vice versa. If it's overbought, I tend to close my longs and I tend to open a short. So it depends. But overbought, I'm a lot more protective. Anytime I get an overbought condition or an alert, I'm very careful in immediately de-risking. So especially if I get a stablecoin dominance showing me that altcoins are overbought, then I would be very careful here. I would immediately de-risk. I'm not going to wait for all four conditions to be coming through. So this is the beauty of how it's set up. You can immediately trade when you get the alerts. You can set up the alerts. The way that I'm really proud of how this was designed, because it's engineered in a way where you can set up as many conditions as you want. So if you say, I want to know anytime that Bitcoin on the 15-minute is oversold, and I want to know anytime that Ethereum on the 15-minute is also oversold, and I want to know anytime Solana on the 15-minute is oversold, and I want a fourth condition to say anytime that the global stablecoin dominance on the 15-minute is also oversold, I wanted to immediately go and buy up to $100 of any account that I want. So completely up to you, however you have it set up. And of course, we have on-chain, off-chain, we have perpetual futures, etc., completely non-custodial, as I've mentioned many times, just as a friendly reminder. And then you can go and save the alert, and you'll be up and running. So you're up and running, and you'll be good to go, and it'll automatically execute it. So, or you can just be alerted. So it's completely up to you. You don't have to go and execute it. You could just have it email you or send it through a Discord webhook or a Telegram webhook. And then you could also set up alerts for any other conditions that you want across all the modules. So I only want to be receiving an alert when this politician buys up to this size trade with high conviction, and only when it's within like from this time to this time, right? So you can be as sophisticated as you want in terms of how you want it. You can set up the number of occurrences too. You say, I only want to buy when I've received this alert 3 times, all within 4 hours, then that's a good time to potentially be going in, because you want to wait for confirmation of a breakout before you go long. So this is an example. So this market reversal engine to me is gold, because it's something that I've been building for a long time, worked really hard on this. And I want to add more timeframes, and I want to add more assets. So I want to add 1 hour, 4 hour, I want to add midterm to long term, and I want to add some stocks, and I want to add more ETFs and funds, because it's just so helpful. It's so helpful. Okay. And then the next one I want to go through is the Alpha Hunter Suite. So the Alpha Hunter Suite is mostly if you're interested in cryptocurrency tokens being listed. So to me, this is extremely helpful, because what it's showing me is if I want to see every single new project that is launched that whales are buying religiously and they're accumulating, then Alpha Hunter Suite allows me to look at that with the launches view. So it's telling me, if I click this, it tells me exactly what the rug risk score is. So It also allows me to see exactly who the whales are. It allows me to see like how they're performing. It allows me to see their composition, like what their total balance is, how much of the token do they actually have. If it's insignificant, then I'm just gonna, of course, skip it and not pay any attention to it. But if it is significant, then I will pay attention to it. So this is where it gets very interesting, because if there's a whale that is buying, for example, 3.7 million, then you have to ask, is this an exchange? Is it not an exchange? So we do everything we can to disqualify as much as we can and exclude the noise. And that's to me is where that secret sauce is. It's just taken so long to be able to create a Alpha Hunter token launch scanning. So this is continuously being worked on. And we've caught a lot of good projects this way and I think the best way of doing it is to just continue to exclude memes. So we're trying our best. We really do want to exclude memes out of this because there's just so much noise. We're excluding out 99.99% of all new tokens being launched. And I'm not exaggerating. We're looking at hundreds of thousands of these every day to pick out like less than a handful that are coming through. And we haven't seen anything in the past week, just to give you an idea of how rigorous we've been in terms of our approach. So that's the Alpha Hunter. And then the Alpha Hunter for listings to me is extremely valuable because it's telling me which centralized cryptocurrency exchanges and decentralized cryptocurrency exchanges are listing which projects. And usually if you see prominent tier one exchanges like Coinbase, Binance, Bybit, for example, potentially Kraken, Gemini. So the ones that have the most rigorous and the most difficult to accomplish know your customer and anti-money laundering compliance rules, when they're listing these tokens is a very good precursor of a potential jump in demand for that token. And that usually will lead to a price appreciation. So that's extremely valuable when you look at decentralized perpetual futures exchanges like, AsterDex, Hyperliquid, DYDX, the other one, Liquid. There's Lighter, right? Lighter futures. There's Drift Protocol, Perpetual Protocol. There's so many that are absolutely massive and that are continuing to grow. And you can see that. So like AsterDex was announcing that they're going to list SLX, right? And the confidence is very high in terms of how we matched up the token with the project. And you can look at exactly how it's performing. So, and if you want to buy it, you just go and you click it, and then you can go on trade. There'll be a little trade button here when you're logged in and you have your wallet connected, and then you can immediately buy it. So the same thing with delistings. So delistings to me are very valuable because they're opportunities for you to go short on these coins as they are delisting these specific trading pairs. So if they're delisting Harvest Finance, it doesn't mean that they're delisting Harvest Finance across all trading pairs, but they are delisting Harvest Finance on the USDT denominated pair on Binance, right? And you can see the volume is tiny, right? But there's still going to be liquidity there potentially if you want to short. So there's a lot here. There's a lot here that could be potentially interesting. Also, I would take a closer look at the actual announcement and see and make sure, because a lot of this is sometimes they'll give information and they'll keep changing it, and then it won't be USDT. It'll be like BNB. So it'll be farm/BTC. So it'll be some small trading pairs. You have to be careful with that. And that's really the Alpha Hunter suite. And then I also post my market analysis on the market analysis module here. So you'll be able to see that. You'll be able to see that very closely. And that's where I post my thoughts on the market, my views on potential trading opportunities that I haven't posted on Trade Alpha, just ideas, because I post everything on Trade Alpha. But in terms of just market overview, anything that could be, potentially interesting, I talk about it, right?